Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast. Thomas Miller and Robert Glasscock. We've been in this little series of manifestation topics, and we've heard some great feedback. Thank you for that. We have one more. I thought we were done with three, but now there's four because some of you asked a really good question, and we're going to answer it in this episode. The question was, Robert had mentioned in the 369 manifesting technique, he had mentioned about aligning certain planets from your natal chart with the day's ascendant. So we're going to show you how to do that right now. Let's go to a slide here and we will demonstrate this technique. Robert, why don't you walk us through this?
Yeah, it's really very easy because the ascendant, basically moves 1 degree every 4 minutes. So a particular sign will be rising for about 2 hours. And then it moves into the next sign. So, for example, right now, as Thomas and I are getting together, I happen to be in Little Rock, Arkansas. And here, 4 degrees Cancer is rising. Well, my natal Saturn is at 10 degrees rising, which you can see there, and my natal part of fortune. So my natal Saturn is being emphasized or heightened by the current transiting ascendant. And what am I doing? Well, if I think back to my natal chart, my natal Saturn is on the 7th cusp of partnerships. Saturn is a business planet. Here, Thomas and I are in a business partnership coming together, and this is what we're talking about, something serious, Saturn astrology. So it's a Saturn 2 hours for me. And shortly, in about an hour, my natal North Node will be heightened because at that point, 24 Cancer will be on my local ascendant. Now, it's very easy for me to do. I have Ephemeris, which is a terrific astrology program for the iPhone. I have that on my phone. So all I have to do is tap Sky Now, and it shows me instantly what's rising and where the transiting planets are. So I can instantly see what's on the ascendant.
Which I did right here, which is in the inner ring. I just want people to understand that's exactly what I did to get this inner ring is I hit the equivalent of Sky Now, or I think it says current transits or something on my software, but whatever that is to just get the right now moment. That's what he's talking about. That goes in the inside wheel.
And you want to know what's rising locally. That's what you want to know.
And that's
you also may want to know
that.
You may want to know what's culminating locally. In other words, what sign is on the 10th cusp? Well, you can see there's my natal moon being emphasized right now at the top of the chart. So you can use this technique to determine every day, which will be different, what planets you want to be either rising or culminating, and time your actions accordingly. If you have an important business meeting, for example, and this right now is for Thomas and me. We're doing podcast here. This is business, and it's important. So here's Saturn and my North Node rising on my ascendant right now. Now, Thomas's will be different. He's in Atlanta, so he may have Leo rising, which will emphasize a different planet in his chart. But this is a great technique to choose times of days to take actions.
Now, what you can do here is let's move this chart forward in the day. I'm using the arrows here, and notice that I'm focusing here on Jupiter, which is getting ready to move up toward that ascendant. So I'm moving these, advancing them by the hour, but here's the hour between, look back over here again now, look in this area, and between 1:30 and 2:30, if we were in Little Rock with Robert, that Jupiter would hit that ascendant. So that's how you can tell, right?
And what that means is it is a favorable hour for everything that is ruled by Jupiter in my natal chart. Well, Jupiter happens to be in my 9th house, so this would be a good time to sign legal documents, make long-distance phone calls, conduct business long-distance online, take a trip, and so on. So you're trying to maximize your daily awareness of when your natal planets are either rising or culminating to choose times to take action. If you have the option and you can have a business meeting any time of the day, well, pick a good hour.
I like this up here too. I mean, look at that as far as 1:30 for you. Say you had a reading scheduled this afternoon.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good to know that right there?
Yep.
So,
Yep. So this is the technique. It's really simple.
yeah,
And I want to emphasize again for those of you who don't maybe have an astrology program on your iPhone. This is a program that I got years ago when Clifford Ribaudo, I believe is his name. He lives in Portugal and teaches there. He's an engineer and computer scientist. He devised it's almost like having a desktop program on your iPhone. And he makes them for Android as well, as far as I understand. They're cheap. 39 bucks, 40 bucks maybe. I don't know what they are today. But they're incredibly rich and accurate and very easy to use.
I think
So
there are a
that's what
couple
I've
of
been using.
others. Yeah, you've been using Ephemeris. I have that on my phone. Another one is Apple, is only for Apple. That's called the program that I use, which is Astro Gold, but that's only for the iPhone.
Yeah,
And then Time Passages is another popular one. And I think the free version of that is very powerful and offers everything that people need to do this. So it gives you a few more options. There are so many out there now, but those are kind of the big guns that have been there for years.
yeah, absolutely. And things like if you know in advance, depends on your natal chart. If you happen to have natally an afflicted Mars, for example, which can correspond to arguments or controversies or dissension, that sort of thing, and you happen to be going into something sensitive, you don't want to have your first date with somebody under an afflicted Mars, unless you want it to be a sort of combative relationship. Maybe you do. So,
I know
Mars
somebody who
rising,
has a conflicted Mars.
gee, who would that be?
Yeah. So, let's use this as an example. I mean, some people would argue that Mars in Scorpio is not conflicted, but I'm going to argue that mine is. So let's just leave it at that. And so what you're saying then is you wouldn't want to go on a date here at what time would that be? 5:30 this evening. Is that right?
Well, it could be right, but look at your Mars. Mars, and you got Mars in tune. Mars and Neptune and the Sun in the sign of, excuse me, sex. So, well, for those of you who are still participants,
I'm 65.
okay, I don't want to talk about it.
Never mind.
Way too much information for the listeners. But that can be an incredibly romantic and deep kind of date, for example, or to go to a movie. Movies are ruled by Neptune. Restaurants are ruled by Neptune. Bars are ruled by Neptune if you drink. So the
Wow.
Mars, Neptune, and Sun can actually be tremendously romantic for a candlelight dinner and for really having a very intimate and deep date. Even if it's a first date, you could find very surprisingly that the two of you have tons in common and have some very deep, serious things in common. So suddenly it becomes a very good aspect.
Well, but let's go back to the conflicted Mars because let's say my Mars is conflicted and I'm awkward on first encounters and I usually lash out at waiters in restaurants and create a scene. Let's say that potential exists with a conflicted Mars, okay? So then how would you interpret this just from the conflicted side?
Then you say, honey, let's get together at 11:30 tonight instead of dinner. So
So we're
you pick
going
a
to move
different
it.
hour.
You're going to
So
move it.
you
Where
pick
would
an
you
you
move it
pick
out
an
of the way then?
oh you want to get it away from the angles,
Yeah. Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Yeah. So you could stick it down here in the you could say here's let's see, this is what you're doing. I mean, you're saying okay, I'm thinking about this appointment or this encounter. Here's 7:31 in the morning in the fifth house, which is light and playful recreation, same thing, sex. But I don't think if you meet for coffee at 8:30 in the morning that probably that's going to lead to that. But there you go, you position it in the fifth house and it might be a little bit lighter.
Well, there's another reading of Mars and Tune. Mars and Neptune and the Sun. If you are starting an astrological or metaphysical business or a creative business or a creative project like making a movie or writing a book or selling a book, you would love to have Mars, Neptune, and the Sun rising or culminating because that is a terrific time to seek other people's money to back your project. So if you're having an interview with somebody you hope, and it could be a banker, it could be a friend who's looking to maybe invest in a business with you, that's a terrific time, having Mars and Tune rising or culminating, to have those discussions.
Which would
So,
be, in this case, at 12:31 in the morning. So unless you were dealing with somebody in Berlin or Frankfurt, you might not want to
true,
do that.
true,
Well,
very true.
what you do there is you just wait for a few weeks or even months, because eventually this will move on and then you'll have a more favorable time, preferably in the early morning hours or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Just wait it out a little bit.
So it's just a little
Wow.
ancillary, it's an ancillary technique to kind of maximize your effectiveness depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, this is great. This is
Yeah.
huge. Thank you so much for this. This is so practical, gives us so much information to um, know that we should stay in touch with that natal chart and the sky today and know what we're dealing with at any given time. Wow, so practical. I hope you guys put this to good use. And if you haven't yet and you're watching on the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you get notified when all these new videos come out that we're doing. And we will, I think now with episode number 4 in this little manifesting series, call it a wrap. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back, though, with more great stuff on video and audio on the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast with Robert Glasscock.